Get over it.
Please don't interrupt me. They want to listen to me, boss.
I know, but get over it. He is the president.
And let me tell you my perspective on the impeachment proceedings, because my vote, I sit on Judiciary Committee, and I will have a direct vote on that decision one way or the other. And I've been on TV a number of times the last few days, and here's my thoughts, and I welcome your thoughts as well. Think back to my daughter. One of her favorite movies was Alice in Wonderland. And there was a scene in Alice in Wonderland where the Queen of Hearts captured Alice. And the Queen wanted to essentially execute Alice on the spot. And the king ran over and said, let's have a trial first and then execution. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to pull back and look at the facts. We need to see what's going on in our society. What happened, that Mueller report, in my opinion,
no obstruction.
A lot of good work. It's a lot of good work.
$35 million
and
worth?
what we need to do moving forward is
get over it.
Sit down in the Judiciary Committee and address those issues in broad daylight.
Suck it up.
In front of the cameras. Please, okay? I'm trying to talk. My constituents.
Well, then don't be discrediting my president.
Thank you.
Okay?
Sir, look. Look.
Gentlemen,
he's your president too.
He's your daddy. He's your mama's daddy.
He's your president.
Gentlemen.
You shut up.
I'm going to tell you. Look, we're here to have a civil
All right
discussion.
then, don't badmouth my president, okay? Don't do that.
I'm trying to update the community. I'm not going to have this be a disrupted event like you did at Delhi Center, okay?
Do not badmouth my president,
Don't be a
okay?
fascist.
Officer,
You need to get over it.
you want to be escorted out?
I'm not going out.
Please escort these.
I'm not going out.
We came to hear Lou, not you. We don't want to hear you. We want to hear Lou.
I've done nothing wrong. I'm exercising my First Amendment right. I'm not going out.
Are you going to let me proceed with our...
You can proceed, but don't badmouth my president.
I need you to be...
Okay.
Rule.
Do not badmouth my president.
This is the last
Okay?
time. Please
Okay.
be quiet.
That's what I'm telling you.
Be quiet.
It's okay. I'm going to stay, sir. Okay.
We're trying to have a
All right, sir.
peaceful meeting, please. Speak English. You're more than welcome to. Speak English. In a peaceful meeting, please.
Estados Unidos, no México.
Yeah, this is America.
So, folks, what I'm trying to tell you is this, okay? This issue of impeachment is an important issue for our country. It's an important one.
Garbage.
And we all have to make the decision on information, an informed decision, based on the fact the Mueller report for 2 years was conducted in secrecy. Now, it's up to the Judiciary Committee to hold hearings in public.
Didn't it say no collusion? No.
Sir,
It
please.
said no collusion.
Officer.
These guys are gone. Well, I'm not going to
Please.
sit here and listen to you talk. I'm a constituent. I'm a constituent. You shut up.
Whoa.
Look, you know as well as I do there was no collusion. So why don't you tell all these people the truth?
That's not what it said.
Exactly what it said.
14 years. I'll bet you $10 you didn't read it, did you?
It's a soft coup. Keep hope alive. I'm
This
president to go after
guy's
president.
dreaming full of it. It's right back at you.
Look, I'm trying to have a town hall.
Yeah, you're bullshitting everybody's looking at you.
Damn.
No, you are. Trump might be our president, but Lou Correa is our congressman.
Yes.
He has no right to do that.
Not my congressman.
I'm sick and tired of it. That's what they try to watch.
Ouch.
You're with the crowd. Get out! Oh, damn well! It's not 2010, buddy.
All right, gentlemen, hey, ladies and gentlemen, hey, everybody please take your seat.
I have to approve. You're running for all of us who came to hear him. I've never heard of you before. We're making it about you instead of him.
Look,
It needs to be about
we're all
us,
friends and neighbors, okay?
not all of us.
We agree to disagree on some issues, and what we want to do here is listen to your opinion.
Show respect. Show respect.
And be kind.
Starts with you
They
too.
need your help.
It goes both
Starts
ways.
with you.
There was no
As
collusion.
I said, what we are going to
You got
do
200
is going to have
pages that
hearings
said
in
no
the Judiciary
collusion,
Committee
right?
to address the issues that were brought
You're
up
saying no.
in that Mueller report.
What
In
are
my
the
opinion, it's good work, but now it's time for the public to see
It's a soft coup.
what exactly is it that's part of that report.
Have you read it?
And I'm in the process of it, sir. It's a very detailed report.
So then how could you be negative on it then?
I am being objective, sir. What did I just say we're doing? I said we're going to look at that report publicly and make a determination. Is that negative?
Then don't jump
That's
into
not
conclusions
negative,
then.
sir. Don't jump on it. Relax.
Wasn't that the conclusion? No collusion?
I didn't talk about conclusions.
I think that's what Mueller said.
President Trump one day said it exonerated him, the next day he said it was a bunch of lies. So which is it?
You know, you show your next
Which is it? We
Thank
are going to find out in the open
You're talking
committee.
about impeachment. Impeachment for what?
200
What do you
pages
want
of
to impeach him on?
Why does it talk?
Because he's not a globalist, that's why. Because he loves the American people.
Offense, idiot.
Skip those employees, buildings, hotels.
Oh, brother.
Folks.
Oh, brother.
Anyway, like I said, we'll be talking about this issue. It'll be televised on C-SPAN Live, so all of you can reach a decision.
Scream.
Personally, as a person who will vote possibly on that issue,
Nah.
I'm going to be looking at all the data, at all the facts, to make an informed decision, to represent all of you. Thank you very much. At the same time, you know, we're trying to move things forward for the people of this country. I really think some of the areas that we can really come together on are things like infrastructure. We're looking to invest in a major infrastructure bill that I think Democrats and Republicans can get behind to make sure that we build our infrastructure, create good paying jobs, and put us in a competitive stage as opposed to other countries around the world. That's what we want to do. We have people here from the building trades. Welcome. And what we want to do again is get good paying jobs out there for our young people and other folks that are friends and neighbors. I'm hoping that happens. We right now are in the process of trying to figure out the big question, which is how are we going to pay for the infrastructure bill? And that's, I think, something that all of us can get behind and work to implement. Other areas of government that we're working on, we're also working on climate change.
No.
We're also working.
Give me a break.
The United States back into the Paris Accord.
I'll take
Oh,
that.
stop it. Get over it.
Never happened. Never happened.
And I'll tell you why.
Give me a break.
What happens when you have these international groups start moving in one direction? It's the people who are in those groups that write the laws, that write the regulations. And right now, the biggest player in that group is China. I want to make sure it's the United States, it's in the middle of drawing up those rules and regulations, because we have to continue to be competitive internationally.
That's going to make us less competitive.
We have a lot of interesting things going on. We're working on civil rights.
Oh, here we go.
We are working on immigration reform. We are working to make sure
There are borders.
that, folks, that we can continue to give the American dream the promise of a better tomorrow for all of our
For
children.
Americans.
Thank you, sir.
God bless America. God bless all of you.
This is a moderate
I
Dem.
know we have some questions that I want to hear from you, okay? I want to hear your questions. You're going to get some answers from me. And so what we've done is we've got some questions that we filled out, and I'm going to read them out loud and try to answer them as well. What's the first question?
Miss.
How you doing?
Like the lottery, pick one out.
Okay, the first question we received is, in California, childhood vaccinations are a big issue, and currently there's a bill going through state legislation to further restrict medical exemptions. Bit of a personal story, but has questions about childhood vaccinations.
Is that a question or a comment?
That's my question, sir.
It's not a question.
Hold on a
You didn't
second.
read everything that I wrote, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I have a daughter who's vaccine injured. She suffered multiple organ damage and was labeled failure to thrive. Currently, she has a medical exemption that was granted by an immunologist. Currently, there's legislation going through the state that wants to further restrict medical exemptions. Excuse me, this is a very emotional topic for me. They want to further restrict medical exemptions and make it something that's determined by the state, only for anaphylaxis and brain swelling. So my daughter's medical exemption would be taken away. I'm wondering how you feel about vaccinations and being able to.
I think in your situation, ma'am, where there is a clear medical reason for an exemption vaccination, those kind of exemptions should exist.
Thank you.
Because yours is a clear-cut issue of a medical reason for no vaccination. As you know, throughout the rest of the country, we have other measles outbreaks and some of the other issues because children are not getting vaccinated. I think we have an issue here, and the rub here is public health care versus individual health care versus the individual decision of the parent to address the issues with the children. And what we have to do is be very careful. And I think the person who's at the center of this is the doctor.
Thank you.
You making the decision with the doctor as to what is most important, what is the best for your child.
Thank you.
That's, you know,
Yeah.
that's where we need to go.
It's horrific.
Can I say something real quick regarding that?
The next question we have ruffled through the bit. Let's see. We are rooting for Korean Americans, peace on the Korean Peninsula. Would you please help and co-sign the resolution of H.R. 152 to end Korean War officially? This was introduced by Congressman Lou Correa.
I haven't looked at that legislation specifically, so I have to look at it to see whether I sign on or not. I will tell you, I just spent a week in South Korea, and I was there because of the possible peace developments in that area. President Trump reaching out to Chairman
Thank you,
Kim.
President Trump.
I ask people in Korea, what is it that you want? Everybody wants peace. Not everybody was for unification. The young people thought it was too expensive to reunify, and they didn't want the burden of a reunification. The best information I got in South Korea is when I visited the DMZ zone, the militarized zone, and I went to speak to American soldiers in uniform. And it was interesting because back in the late 70s, a couple of American soldiers were actually hacked to death by North Koreans when they were trying to clean some brush, and miscommunication, and two American soldiers made the ultimate sacrifice. When I was there, these soldiers were telling me stories about how their relationship with the North Koreans is actually warming up. They're actually talking, discussing family, their kids, those kinds of issues. And in an interesting way, the real ambassadors of peace seem to be the soldiers that are looking at each other across those binoculars and actually sit there and talk about what's going on. And occasionally the Americans walk across into North Korea, they go into the barracks, and they talk to the North Korean soldiers and vice versa. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the peninsula. I don't know if it'll be a German type of reunification, but it's interesting to see the the South Koreans, the young people, then the business folks who want reunification because they see North Korea as a place of natural resources and of cheap labor. So everybody has their own interest in this. I think at the end of the day, we're hoping that there's no such thing as another war. Another factoid that makes the whole situation complicated is that, you know who South Korea's biggest trading partner is?
China.
China. And yet we are their military ally. So the strain that South Korea is experiencing trying to play both sides, and I say play both sides, and also working with the North is quite interesting. So I will look at that issue, and I'm hoping peace comes to the peninsula. But I think long term, when you look at America's strategic interests, we're going to be in the South China Sea for a long time. I mean, this country is a country that is built on commerce, on the free trade in free oceans. And so I see our presence there not going down, but rather going up militarily. So stay tuned. Again, that's why I brought up the issue of the Coast Guard, because Coast Guard, I have a great relationship with those folks. And now I'm learning that they are the ones that are being used by the Navy to enforce those sanctions on North Korea. Fascinating.
Okay.
So anyway, next question. Next question.
Okay, the next question. The Good Lot Bill had a DACA Dreamers Path to Citizenship. Why didn't you co-sponsor it? This was 2 or 3 sessions ago.
I'm trying to remember
that was last year, actually.
The specifics of the Good Lot Bill. What I'm interested, and I'll tell you in general what I'm interested in terms of a Dreamer Bill, is a pathway to citizenship. A reasonable pathway to citizenship where if you come to this country,
do it legally.
You work hard, you pay your taxes, then you should have the right
do it legally.
To citizenship.
Wrong.
It's interesting because
legal.
It's interesting because immigration is an interesting thing.
You think?
There are approximately
We have laws.
200,000 Chinese students studying in our universities today.
They're not on the dole, though.
There's approximately 100,000 Indian students studying here today. There's approximately 60,000 Korean Americans studying here today.
But they're Americans, you
There's a
said.
proposal being made by the administration to stop them. And I have to tell you that we, America, are leaders in high tech. We in America rely on these postdoctorate research scientists to keep us competitive worldwide. And if you look at Silicon Valley, the high-tech folks there, a lot of the workers are essentially a lot of these immigrants. If you were to ask me, how do we keep America competitive, it's continue to be an attractive place for some of these immigrants to come and stay in the U.S. The mistake we're making, folks, we train these students in our cutting-edge technologies, then we tell them, leave. What we should do is say, if you're trained, you should stay here in the green card and contribute to this country. Because what China's doing is really they're setting up these labs for all these folks to be repatriated and go back to China and essentially compete against us. That's why I believe we have to have a good immigration policy to keep America strong.
We have Americans who could take those jobs, though.
Trump wanted the DACA
We do have to go to
That's
additional
why
questions.
it had no Democrat co-sponsor.
Okay, the next question.
Can I respond?
We have a constituent who's asked.
Border security. That's why.
There are Americans who could take those jobs.
Trump had that on